carried. Lyttelton Seafarers Welfare, Banks Peninsula. I'll move that in the absence of the Deputy Mayor. Hey? No, well, no. Actually, I want to change the wording of the recommendation, because we did actually try to, well, first of all, I'd like the first part of the recommendation to say, request the Mayor to meet with the chair of the Lyttelton Port Company to discuss options for ongoing financial support of the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, the second recommendation is to request the community board and the governance manager have already met with the Lyttelton Port Company, so I'm sort of kind of reluctant to go back there again. And I don't want to create a resolution that I can't contribute towards because of inviting CCHL to do anything, but because I'm on the board of CCHL. But I suspect that because it's just a request that they follow this up, and that they add, and then they come back and have a workshop, I think that that's a conflict that can be managed simply by declaration. So I'm declaring that I'm a member of the CCHL board, as is Andrew, as is Vicky and Jamie. So I'm just adding to the resolutions on the Seafarers one. So the first one is request that the Mayor meet with the chair of Lyttelton Port Company to discuss ongoing, discuss options for the financial support of the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre. And then the second one will be request Christchurch City Holdings Limited engage with Lyttelton Port Company, request the Mayor, and I don't think we need report back to a councillor workshop. I think it has to come back. Doesn't it have to come back to the community board?
Council?
Yeah.
Or to council?
Yeah.
Because this has been,
yeah, or to council. It's been around for too long. It just needs to be resolved.
Yeah. Well, I'm almost at the point where I'd move an amendment just to say, can the port find a way to fund this? It's embarrassing that they don't do it already. Yeah. And another workshop, another meeting, another briefings. This is peanuts.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is that we have asked them to fund it. We have asked them to do this. I haven't taken it up with the chair.
Well, I'm happy to take it up as chair of the finance committee, where I can wear a different hat, given that you're on the board of CCHL.
It doesn't matter that I'm on the board of CCHL.
Well, then why is this not happening?
I am the mayor of Christchurch.
Good. So just say it should be done. I'll support that.
Sorry.
Well, okay. Ask the port to fund this welfare centre.
I'm going to. That's what this says.
It says engage on options. It's like, just give them a direction. Yes. Yanni, do you want to do the wording?
I think it's great that the Mayor's offered to meet with their chair, but I think it would also be helpful if we had a resolution that said that the Christchurch City Council formally requests the Lyttelton Port Company to fund the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre. And then that gives you ammunition when you meet with the port to say our council, who's the 100% owner, would strongly recommend that you do this. I can't believe we've spent so much time on this, and I understand.
That's fine. That's fine. And if people want to really be helpful in a situation like this, then I just ask that they, talk to their colleagues about what their intentions are beforehand, because then it just makes it so much more simple.
It's just a simple amendment for two.
That's fine. I'm not going to take all of these things until I've got a recommendation on the table.
Okay. Well, I was going to move an amendment.
I had moved and I had started to move an amendment, which I was actually starting to move a recommendation at the time that I was interrupted in this regard.
Fine.
So
Carry on.
So I will change it so that because I'm listening to what people are saying, that the council I'm just trying to think of the wording, that the council, we've already adopted the wording of the support for the maritime sorry, the international convention that we've signed up to, or that the country signed up to. We can't require them to do so. So that the council, well, just the council formally requests that the Lyttelton Port Company fund the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre. But I also think that that the mayor be invited to meet with the chair to discuss the reasons for this.
I think so. One option. One of the reasons we left this lying on the table last time was because we were dealing with exactly this same issue. An advice that we had back from CCHL suggested that the council doing what's proposed here in Resolution 1 isn't appropriate because it's the council as owner meddling in the operational matters of the port. I mean, we can do all of this. And I mean, actually, what the board wants us to do and what the Seafarers Centre wants us to do is whatever is going to result in the port financially supporting the Seafarers Centre, or more particularly Seafarers Welfare in Lyttelton. But I think 2 and 3 need to be there as well, because we request that the port company fund the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre, yeah, all well and good, but that request still needs to be dealt with. And I think meeting with the chair would be useful in that regard, and CCHL having a hand, as they properly should in that regard, is also helpful. So I guess I'm comfortable with 1 in as much as it sends a very strong signal as to our expectations, as long as 2 and 3 are there as well. Yeah, well, the reason that, I mean, it's like saying that formally request that Fletcher's reduce the prices of their houses by 30%. I mean, we actually don't have a direct relationship with the Lyttelton Port.
That's not true. We requested the port to build a cruise berth for $60 million.
Yes, we funded it.
Yes, but we requested them to do it. They wouldn't have done it without us asking them to do it.
They wouldn't have paid. They wouldn't have done it if they hadn't funded it.
Thank you. What I'd really like is for the chair of CCHL, the chair of the board of Lyttelton Port Company, and the CE to meet with you to work out. This is just going around in circles, because when it first was brought up, it was thought that the ratepayers would pay for it. That was one of the options, and that was out of the question, because the ships that are coming in and using our port are the ones that should be paying for it. When Lyttelton Port Company said it would be it would work against them and detrimental to them to put the cost of that onto berthing in Lyttelton. But when you hear that the cost of berthing is $50, $60 or $70, up to $70,000, to throw $100 at each berth it's not even on the Richter, it's just not even there. So that excuse which LPC used was, I believe, false. So I think that a meeting with the 2 chairs and the CE directly with the mayor, just to get this resolved and move forward, to show how important this is to our community. It's just going around in circles. It's ridiculous.
Did you want to come forward and provide some advice, or?
Well, Lynn's here as well, actually, and in particular around the issue of that you covered in the memo of the risks of deemed directors.
Thank you for the invitation. I think Len is probably better placed, but I'll sit here. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. The key crux of when I was asked to have a look at is whether the council has an obligation or has an ability to put something through a letter of expectation or a statement of intent.
No, we're not doing that. That's off the table. So
Okay.
that's gone.
So we've moved on and said,
Yes.
well, our preferred option is through negotiation, and therefore we recommended that actually whether the chair or the CE of Holdings, Christchurch City Holdings Limited, do approach the port company. And Paul Munro has been advised of that situation. He's been advised of all these negotiations that we've had, and there is some willingness for that to occur. And so, therefore, that would be a logical step for us to take to say, once that has gone through its motions, it's then for council to make that recommendation. It's the council does fund the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre. By all means, in the last 2 years, they've contributed $15,000 to the centre. So this is nothing new for council. It's just whether the Seafarers Centre can exist on the level of funding it has, and that is what's proven to be difficult. So that's why this morning's deputation talked about how much of a levy could be put on each ship. Now, that has never been tested by us as a way, because the funding that they need, we're totally unsure of. Although they have put some indications in the paper. So we've spent time making sure that what they're after is simple. What the best steps are is through negotiation, and turning around and saying to yourself, Mayor, and everybody else that there is a way forward, and I think through the City Holdings Limited there will be a best answer for this problem.
But there's nothing in terms of the my role as the Mayor of Christchurch, regardless of whether I'm a director of CCHL or not, that stops me making an approach to the chair of the Lyttelton Port Company.
You as representative of the city, you can do that as much as you like. It's up to the council to turn around and say, what's the best step for Lyttelton or city itself?
Yeah, but we certainly can't direct the Lyttelton Port Company to do anything from here.
Directly.
That's right. Paul. Phil.
So, Ian, I'm happy to support the intent of the amendments, but I'm aware the community board and council have been across this a lot of times, and like there's the other aspect too, like this clear reference to the Maritime Labour Convention, and it just seems to me this is a New Zealand-wide and worldwide matter in terms of providing these facilities for seafarers. So, and I just want the whole point about, I guess, the wider implications, and especially for our central government, how can we incorporate some action there? Like, for example, should we not also write to the Minister of Transport to ensure we get some New Zealand-wide support for this too?
I don't think that he's the signatory to the
It might be the Prime Minister.
And maybe it is. I don't know.
It's just how it's a transport feature, that's all.
Well, yeah. I mean, other ports. Yeah. I really don't want to muddy the waters. Certainly not the ones in Lyttelton. So, are we reasonably?
I think it's good.
Are we comfortable with these? Yep. Okay. So, sorry. Oh yeah, no, I'll formally move those, and Yanni, you second them? Or Andrew second them. Right. Is there any discussion? Andrew?
It's good to be able to make a decision at this table. This has been bouncing around for some time. There have been a number of deputations to the community board. There are a number of times this has been discussed both informally and formally at the community board, and in meetings with representatives of both the Seafarers Centre and LPC. It's unfortunate that we've got to a point where now there is, I was going to say some frustration, but I think it's fair to say it's a large amount of frustration at both the length of time that this has taken and the lack of progress that's been made over that long time. I mean, the reality is the Maritime Labour Convention has been signed, but there's no mechanism or requirement for its terms to be implemented. That's the environment that we're working in. But Lyttelton, you know, in many ways has had a history, a long history of offering a very good quality of welcome to visiting seafarers, and the number of Lyttelton girls who married Norwegian seafarers and people from overseas, and is testimony to that. And it's something that we've been good at in Lyttelton for years, and it's an embarrassment now to see seafarers, often who are not well paid, often who are from far-flung overseas countries, on the main street in Lyttelton in the freezing cold and the driving rain, huddled outside the library in their raincoats, using our Wi-Fi to make their Skype calls back to their families. So the current situation is not good. We as a council clearly, and just from the discussion that's happened so far this morning, clearly are concerned about that poor quality of welcome that we're offering to visiting seafarers. This is going to be exacerbated by the arrival of a large number of cruise ships in Lyttelton in 2020. And of course, again, we know that often the crew of cruise ships are not well paid, the conditions are not always as good as they might be. And when people have been on board a ship for weeks on end, they are wanting to be able to contact their families in some meaningful way and access the welfare that they quite rightfully need in port. So the port company have got a role here. It's how we define what the port company's role is and how they can contribute funding to seafarers' welfare. And I think it's important that we know that it is seafarers' welfare that we're talking about here, of which the Lyttelton Seafarers Centre is a part. So the funding that's required by the Seafarers Centre is a part of it, but what's required for a good standard of seafarers' welfare in Lyttelton is what this is all about. So I'm pleased to see these resolutions here today. I'm pleased to see that we've been as strong as we probably can be given the advice that we've received, but the clear expectation is that something will happen that will lead to a betterment of the situation for visiting seafarers to Lyttelton.
Phil and Aaron.
Well, I'm very happy to see that there are decisions on the table which in fact hopefully will progress this serious issue, and Reverend McClister made it really clear today how awful really it is for the seafarers who come to our city. And I'm interested though that there's an indication in the report that in fact Lyttelton Port Company weren't opposed to a voluntary levy. So in that respect, I certainly wish you, Leanne, well in your discussions with Lyttelton Port. I think it's timely that in fact they took up this request really. So certainly I'm happy to get some resolutions on the table and support them.
Lovely. Aaron?
Yeah, I'll just raise a couple of small points. One is the irony of having the conversation in the Great Hall earlier this week around human rights and Christchurch potentially becoming a human rights city, yet as a council we can't direct the company we own to uphold some basic human rights. And I know that we get told all these legal reasons why there's a company structure and your arm's length and you can't do this, this and this, but the public just don't agree with that. They go, it's your company, get on and direct them, this is pretty small. You're not directing them on massive change, and it's a frustration that lots of members of the public often have with organisations like ours, that we make problems for ourselves. We're not solutions focused, and these are basic solutions for people that are incredibly hard-working, that are part of our city for days at a time, and they should be welcome here and feel safe here, and it is important that this is upheld.
Yanni.
Yeah, I totally agree. This seems like it should be one of the simplest things to solve. We own a company that makes profit every year from the shipping industry. We have a funding shortfall for a group that's providing welfare to those people that are contributing to that economic prosperity. And, this just highlights, I think, the challenge we have around balancing the economic well-being versus the community and social well-being objectives in our city. And it does seem, just a minuscule amount of money that we're spending time arguing about with the port over more significant projects that get funded what would seem to be very easily. So look, let's just get on and get the funding in place. I think even if when the Mayor meets with the port, if it can just be a sort of 1-year thing until you work through the longer term issues. Ultimately for me though, this does need a sustainable funding mechanism. It seems like the levy would be the most sensible thing forward. I'd caution about it being voluntary. It should be mandatory or just part of the charges when boats come into Lyttelton, but I strongly support providing these services. I just think it's absolutely essential that we're a city that prides ourselves in being inclusive and a place for everyone, and this is part of our community, and I think we do need to take action on it.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. It's carried. Thank you.